United Kingdom.
Well, thank you, Chair. We gather today at a dark moment. 660 days since the Israeli hostages were first cruelly taken by Hamas terrorists. There is no possible justification for this suffering and only a clear duty that we help to bring it to an end. The devastation in Gaza is heartbreaking. Children are starving, and Israel's drip feeding of aid has horrified the world. These are an affront to the values of the Charter of the United Nations. Last week, Britain led 28 countries in demanding an immediate end to this terrible war, and we set the region on a path to a better future. That requires not just an immediate ceasefire, but a plan to make it last. Colleagues, our history means that Britain bears a special burden of responsibility to support the two-state solution. In the last 12 months, the United Kingdom government has repeatedly taken action in the face of the current crisis. We restored funding to UNRWA. We suspended arms exports that could be used in Gaza. We provided tens of millions of pounds in humanitarian assistance. We signed a landmark agreement with the Palestinian Authority, and we stood up for the independence of the international courts. We have delivered 3 sanctions packages on violent settlers, and we suspended trade negotiations with the Israeli government, and we sanctioned far-right Israeli ministers for incitement. Yet, dear friends, the situation on the ground continues to worsen, and the two-state solution is in peril. And so to reach that better future, we must first reflect on the past. 108 years ago, my predecessor as British Foreign Secretary, Arthur Balfour, signed the declaration that bears his name. It helped lay the foundations for a homeland for the Jewish people, and Britain can be proud of that. Our support for Israel, its right to exist, and the security of its people is steadfast. However, the Balfour Declaration came with the solemn promise that nothing shall be done, nothing which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of the Palestinian people as well. And colleagues, this has not been upheld, and it is a historical injustice which continues to unfold. As diplomats and politicians, we have become accustomed to uttering the words, a two-state solution. Countless times, this Assembly and the Security Council has proclaimed that there must be a two-state resolution. Resolution after resolution. Resolution 181, Resolution 242, Resolution 446, Resolution 1515, Resolution 2334. These cannot be just numbers on a page, but the conviction of a deeply frustrated world. Chairs, Hamas must never be rewarded for the monstrous attack on October the 7th. It must immediately release the hostages, agree to an immediate ceasefire, accept it will have no role in governing Gaza, and commit to disarmament. But Hamas are not the Palestinian people, and there is no contradiction between support for Israel's security and support for Palestinian statehood. Indeed, the opposite is true. Let me be clear. The Netanyahu government's rejection of a two-state solution is wrong. It's wrong morally and it's wrong strategically. It harms the interests of the Israeli people, closing off the only path to a just and lasting peace. And that is why we are determined to protect the viability of a two-state solution. And so it is with the hand of history on our shoulders that His Majesty's government therefore intends to recognize the state of Palestine when the UN General Assembly gathers in September here in New York. Friends, we will do this unless the Israeli government acts to end the appalling situation in Gaza, ends its military campaign, and commits to a long, sustainable peace based on a two-state solution. Our demands on Hamas also remain absolute and unwavering. Before the UN General Assembly gathers, we will take stock of how far the parties have come in meeting these steps. No one side will have a veto on recognition through their actions or inactions. But recognition by itself will not change the situation on the ground. That is why we are taking immediate steps as well, like airdropping humanitarian supplies along with our partners in Jordan, getting injured children into British hospitals, and pressing for the resumption of the United Nations humanitarian assistance. We also believe that a lasting ceasefire requires urgent progress on governance and security in Gaza. We are therefore working with allies on a plan for long-term political negotiations and a two-state solution. Chair, there is no better vision for the future of the region than two states. Israelis living within secure borders recognized and at peace with their neighbors, free from the threat of terrorism, and Palestinians living in their own state in dignity and security, free of occupation. The decades-long conflict between Israelis and Palestinians cannot be managed or contained. It must now be resolved. Britain is ready to play its full and historic part. Thank you very much.
Je remercie très.
I very much thank the Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs of the United Kingdom. I now give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Nuh Yilmaz, Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs of Turkey.
Esteemed ministers, excellencies, dear colleagues, I would like to start by expressing my appreciation to the co-chairs, France and Saudi Arabia, for taking the lead to revitalize the efforts for the implementation of the two-state solution. I also express our thanks to our fellow co-chair, Ireland, in the working group on preserving the two-state solution for its close cooperation. The two-state solution remains central to not only the peaceful settlement of the conflict, but also to preserving sustainable peace and security in the broader region. We should remember the reason why the two-state solution is not achieved so far: occupation. Therefore, any realistic solution has to face with this cruel nature of the occupation. In other words, the root cause of the problem, i.e., the Israeli occupation of the Palestinian territory, should be addressed for any viable solution. Again, let me remind you that the reason why this conference was delayed was Israel's attacks on Iran. This is a testament to the urgency of ending Israel's aggression, expansionism, and policy of strategic destabilization in the region. Israel has strategically been exporting instability to the whole region by seeking for endless wars with hegemonic intentions. No central authority is spared, weakened state structures are sought, failed states are desired and even engineered. That begins and ends with the establishment of a sovereign Palestinian state based on the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital. Horrendous images of innocent civilians, children, babies dying from hunger or shootings in Gaza shake all of us. The images that come out of Gaza in the 21st century will haunt humanity for the years to come. The genocide committed by Israel in Gaza is a dark stain on the international order. There are signs that the international order is being adversely affected by the continuation of this genocide. The rules-based international system is being called into question. An immediate and permanent ceasefire is the most urgent priority. Under the current circumstances, a ceasefire is not possible if the aggressor is not forced to do so. As the international community, we have the obligation to put an end to this man-made human catastrophe. For that, we have to collectively put together more pressure on Israel. For this, the recognition of the state of Palestine is the most imminent step to take by all those who have not yet done so. Within this framework, we welcome all recent moves for recognition. Aside from these urgent political steps, we should also help the Palestinian Authority in capacity building in all possible ways. In parallel to that, reconstruction efforts must be started without delay. The Arab Reconstruction Plan is the only viable plan for the reconstruction of Gaza. Turkey stands ready to contribute actively to these efforts. We stand at a critical moment. Yes, Palestine needs economic support, capacity building, empowering, trade, and any kind of material and moral support. Yet, we must all understand that this is not enough. Palestine needs more. Palestine needs strong and concrete political solidarity that should go hand in hand with coercive measures such as a UN ban on transfers of arms, as well as halting trade with the aggressor. Israel continues to enable illegal settlements. It even goes beyond with its government chanting openly and loudly for the annexation of Palestinian territories. Secularism is theft, secularism is crime, secularism is an anachronistic version of colonialism in the 21st century. Settler terrorism should not go unpunished. Settlers and their enablers must face consequences. Last but not least, the implementation of the two-state solution requires solid institutions and the protection of Palestinian people. Thus, supporting the Palestinian Authority and preventing Israeli actions aiming to uproot the Palestinian nation from their homeland are crucial for any credible roadmap for Palestinian statehood. Excellencies, with regard to the draft outcome document of our conference, particularly its paragraph 11, Turkey is of the opinion that, based on the decades-long Israeli record, the handover of weapons by the Palestinian armed groups should be closely conditioned to the realization of an independent, sovereign, and contiguous Palestinian state on the 67 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital, or an agreement reached among the Palestinian groups as part of the reconciliation process. But we did not break the silence once again to preserve the unity of the international community. We hope that our concern will be taken into consideration by the member states in their relationships and in the future processes. Turkey will continue its unwavering support for law, justice, and hence the rights of the Palestinian people who are in desperate need of our active and concrete support. Thank you.
أشكر معالي نائب وزير.
I thank His Excellency the Vice Minister of Turkey, and I now give the floor to Mr. Emil Higgins, the Minister of Ireland.
Thank you very much. And I would like to begin by thanking our co-chairs, France and Saudi Arabia, for bringing us together today for this important historic day. On behalf of Ireland, I reaffirm our unequivocal support for advancing the two-state solution. I endorse the conference outcome document, and I encourage other UN members to do the same. I welcome the announcement by France that it will recognise the state of Palestine, and I acknowledge the statement we've just heard from the United Kingdom. As we meet here today, Palestinians in Gaza are enduring unconscionable suffering. The humanitarian situation has reached catastrophic levels. Mass starvation is spreading across the Gaza Strip. Babies are dying because of a man-made famine. Violence, thirst, starvation are killing people every day. We are seeing the destruction of homes, of hospitals, of lives. The July IPC hunger classification, which was published today, tells us the worst case scenario of famine is now unfolding in Gaza. The humanitarian system in Palestine is crumbling right when it is needed the most. Israeli hostages remain in captivity with immense suffering for them and their families. And let me reiterate Ireland's unequivocal condemnation of the heinous terrorist attack by Hamas on Israel on the 7th of October. We urgently tar on the United States for their efforts in securing progress as mediators. There must be an influx of life-saving aid to the people of Gaza. Humanitarian pauses and corridors are long overdue, and they are the bare minimum of what is required. Israel must let aid enter Gaza in sufficient quantities and let the UN and humanitarian organizations do their life-saving work. But instead, people are being killed trying to access aid. Children are starving before our eyes. Aid workers have been killed. This appalling situation shames us all. It is an affront to our common humanity, and it is an affront to the charter of this very organization. For decades, we have known the only path to a just and a lasting solution to the Israeli-Palestine conflict is the two-state solution. Two states, Israel and Palestine, living side by side in peace and in security. But for decades, we've seen collective failure to take collective and meaningful action. Today, to those suffering in Gaza and in the West Bank, the two-state solution must seem out of reach. But it cannot be. It cannot be about the long term. It has to be about the here and now. It has to be about today. And the two-state solution is key to achieving the most urgent goal, securing an immediate and sustainable ceasefire and the release of all hostages. The two-state solution is indispensable because it would deliver long-term peace, stability and security for the region as a whole. It is recognised clearly in the UN Security Council Resolution 2735, which rejects any attempt at demographic or territorial change in the Gaza Strip, including any actions that reduce the territory of Gaza. And it also reaffirms the importance of unifying the Gaza Strip with the West Bank under the Palestinian Authority. And yet, these principles are flouted with total impunity. We cannot stand by. We must demonstrate more clearly that we afford equal value to the security of Israelis and Palestinians. We, the international community, must act. We do not underestimate the difficult journey that lies ahead. In Ireland, we know this from our own experience of overcoming conflict. As former President Mary Robinson said yesterday, the arc of peace is long. And while each conflict is different, Ireland stands ready to share our relevant experience from our peace process. Ireland recognised the state of Palestine last year. We did that because we believe in the equal right to self-determination, to peace, to security, and to dignity for both Israelis and Palestinians alike. We welcome the announcement by France that it will recognise Palestine, and we acknowledge the statement we've just received from the United Kingdom. We encourage other countries to recognise Palestine. We encourage those who have not done so to recognise the State of Israel. The outcome of this high-level conference must be a clear signal to the Palestinian people that we support their right to self-determination and that we support the choice of the Palestinian leadership to achieve this through a peaceful political pathway. We welcome the commitments made by President Abbas in this regard. I reaffirm Ireland's support for the Palestinian Authority and its reform agenda. I call on Israel to release the revenues owed to the Palestinian Authority that it is withholding, revenues collected in tax that are necessary to fund vital services and to pay the salaries of workers in Palestine. This conference must be a turn.
You will just have seen my statement to the UN General Assembly. What I laid out is that the United Kingdom is now on a pathway to recognise the state of Palestine in September before UNGA. We have always believed that there is no better vision for the future of the region than two states. I'll let my words earlier speak for themselves, but I'm very happy to take a few questions. Let me start with the BBC.
Tom Bateman from the BBC, Foreign Secretary, thank you. There is a diminishing amount of Palestine left to recognise. Your critics will say this is because successive UK governments have empowered and facilitated Israeli governments that have made that very state unviable territorially and through the use of arms. How do you address the UK's responsibility when it comes to this? And why has it taken starvation to make you act now? And also, if I may, how much pressure is the UK government putting on the Israeli leadership to allow journalists independent access to Gaza?
Well, look, let me be clear. Since coming to office, we restored funding to UNRWA. It was important that we took the sober decision to suspend arms sales to Israel that could be used in Gaza. And of course, working with our partners, we've done everything possible to get the humanitarian aid into Gaza, to get those trucks in, and to ensure that we fund UK-made. And we've treated 24,000 Palestinians in that period. But the decision that we have taken today puts us on a pathway towards recognition. And over the next 8 weeks, what we are attempting to do is affect the situation on the ground. We have seen the most horrific scenes. The global community is deeply offended by children being shot and killed as they reach out for aid. The time has come for a ceasefire. The time has come to see those hostages released. And the time has come to abate the suffering of the Palestinian people in Gaza, to get them the aid and the medical equipment and supplies that they need. And it is my sincere hope that the decision that we have taken today affects the situation on the ground and we get to that ceasefire, we get to those hostages coming out as soon as possible. And let me say, it has always been the position of the United Kingdom government that we support aid workers and we abhor the loss of life of aid workers. And of course, it's essential that journalists are able to go about their business in Gaza and report the facts as they see it without fear or favour. Al Jazeera. I think I had a question for Al Jazeera. I was told Al Jazeera. Is Al Jazeera here? Yeah.
Secretary, two questions. Number one is, did your Prime Minister give a heads up to the U.S. President yesterday that he would be making this announcement today? And second question, your recognition of Palestine is conditioned, as you said. It's a pathway to recognition. Why is there this conditionality? And how will your government decide if Israel has met the conditions or not?
Well, let me state it wouldn't be right for me to comment on private conversations between our Prime Minister and the President of the United States, except to say, as you know, that the United Kingdom has the most special of relationships with the United States. We have always been clear that no country has a veto on solemn decisions that we make in the United Kingdom, and you will have seen in my statement that I made reference to the unique position of the UK in relation to the situation we see in Israel and Gaza and the occupied territories and the Balfour Declaration. And we have made a decision that puts us on a pathway to recognition next month. But what we have attempted to do is to affect the situation on the ground. And I sincerely hope that we see a dramatic improvement in the suffering, that we see a commitment to a ceasefire, and we see a commitment to a diplomatic process such that we do not get a pause in relation to that ceasefire, but we get an enduring peace. And it's for us to assess those conditions as we get to next month. But the undertaking I made in the General Assembly just a few minutes ago is a solemn undertaking in front of the whole global community. PA, I think. The PA. AP, sorry, AP.
Thank you. To follow up on Tom's question, what the French government has said it's willing to take actions, calling on the EU to implement unfreeze money that Israel owes to the Palestinian Authority, to be able to sanction any Israeli senators that are targeting West Bank settlements. What is the UK planning on doing to be able to force or incentivize Israel to fall in line? Will there be an arms embargo? Will there be any sanctions against Israel if they do not comply?
Well, the United Kingdom has already taken steps to sanction violent settlers on the ground. And these are decisions that other countries have not taken. We also took decisions to sanction Ben Gvir and Smodrick, and these are decisions that the European Union have not yet taken. We indicated 27 foreign ministers came together with me in a statement just 2 weeks ago. We indicated that we would take further steps to affect the situation on the ground, and we are clear about that. But today is about achieving the abatement of the suffering that we see on the ground. We have to have those trucks get in, and our assessment is that 25 trucks went in, I think on Sunday, perhaps up to 35 just in this last period. We have delivered 20 tons of aid with our Jordanian friends into northern Gaza in terms of airdrops. to alleviate the suffering and obviously to ensure that those airdrops landed safely in a clear path. But that will not ease the suffering that we are seeing, the malnourishment that now is widespread, and the fear of starvation that is a global concern. And so the United Kingdom, working with partners, and you've seen us working with our Arab partners, but obviously working alongside France and Saudi Arabia today, we are all attempting to bring an end to this suffering. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.